Hello, 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 and welcome to Let's Talk About It, episode 4. Hey, Jalen. You guys give us a couple minutes to get started. Let me scoot a little closer.
Hello.
Hey, Jalen.
How are you?
Hey, Felicia. Hey, cousin. Hey, Kasani. Hello, everybody. Welcome. As you guys join, um, you guys, this is going to be a very good episode. I think it's going to be a very deep episode, but we're going to get through it. Um, as me and Jalen always talk about, you guys, as we're going and we're asking each other these questions, you guys please ask questions on your own as well. I mean, answer our questions. I'm sorry, answer our questions. We will come back at the end of the live and respond to all the comments. But we love when you guys interact with us and we get to talk to you at
But
the
we're
end.
gonna get through it. Um,
There's an echo.
Sorry, that was me.
Oh,
It should be
sorry.
gone now. Is it gone?
Yeah.
Okay.
um, Also, too, if you are watching this live after it is over and you are watching and we are asking questions, you guys, please interact even after it's over. We will come back and interact with you guys after it. Okay. Before we get started, I also want to say that we're going to talk about our own personal experiences with our families, with our fathers, and growing up. I do want to make it very clear that this is not a bashing episode. Anything that I say or we say is not with the intention to bash anyone, or we're not bashing, or any even in the comments, you know. But at the end of the day, we are only a product of our experiences. So I'm going to be 100% transparent. I know Jalen is as well. And if you interact with us in the comments, you can be honest as well. But just know anything we say is out of love and for the purpose of growing and learning without bashing. So I just want to make that very clear.
And it's our truth. And I
Yeah,
think everybody has to live in their truth.
absolutely.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I think to begin, we should definitely talk about the importance of fatherhood and why we even chose this topic to talk about. So for me, fatherhood is very, very important for a number of reasons. I definitely think that it's important in the Black community. I think it's needed for Black boys and girls to have a positive male figure in their lives. Usually that starts with your dad. That's just normal, quote unquote. Also, just the normalcy of having two parents. The family structure is mom, dad, and children. So that definitely plays a big role. I think that fatherhood is needed. It's definitely needed. What would you say, Jaleesa?
Absolutely. I think fathers are very, very, very important in their children's lives. I think a father is the first example that a little boy sees as, you know, what he obtains to be, like how he's going to treat women in the future or treat his children. And for little girls, I think that they are definitely important. So we know firsthand, that's the first experience we see how a man treats a woman. You know, that first example where we learn from is definitely from our fathers.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me ask you this. Why do you think there's a stigma about absentee fathers in the Black community?
That's a very good question. I think there's a couple reasons why there's a stigma with absentee Black fathers. First off, surface level, I think there's a stereotype that Black fathers don't exist. I think that's a stereotype that's been put on us for years, as you know that. But also, a more real definition is systematic racism. And I think that that is definitely a big part of why we have some of our Black men that are incarcerated. As you know, we're not going to get in the topic of systematic racism, but you guys know Black men getting longer sentences and things like that for lesser crimes that other races get. There actually also was a study that I got from one second. Oh, it was called National Kids. It was called National Kids Count, and they said 65% of African American children grow up in a single parent household. That
Wow.
that was by far the most out of every other race, and I think second to us was Latinos, and I think they were in the 50%. But that is a lot, and that is huge.
That is
Um,
a big number. I was
yes,
not expecting you to say that. That's a huge number.
yes. I actually did a little poll on my Instagram over this weekend. So if anybody answered those questions that I asked, 82. I had 82 people answer the question: do they have a good relationship with their father?
Okay.
38 31 people said yes, and 51 said no. So that was 38% to 62%. So even with my small toll of them even having good relationships was kind of the same like
Wow.
number. That 62% people said they did not have a good relationship with their father. So just talking about just that stigma and of why they're absentee and just systematic racism, I believe plays a huge part in that.
I definitely agree. Um, I agree with everything you said. So I really don't have much to add, but I will say that I think it has a lot to do with the breakdown of the Black family structure. So if you
Yes.
eliminate the Black man or the Black father, everything else will tumble under that. So just the breakdown of the Black family structure has a
Right.
lot to do with it.
So speaking of that, what do you think? What is your definition of a good father? What are some qualities or traits that a good father has to you?
Well, number one is being present,
Mm-hmm.
and not just financially, but emotionally, physically, like you need to be there. A child needs to know that you care, that you love them, that you support them, um, that you're there. I think that's the biggest thing with fatherhood. Like you need that. You need to know that you got your dad, that you can call on your dad if you need him, if for anything. And I think that's a big issue with people that don't have a good relationship with their dad. And sometimes like a parent, mother or father may feel like, oh, well, I'm there financially.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of instances as a kid. I can't tell you what my mom paid for, what my dad paid for, but I can tell you who was present.
Right, right, right.
So I would say being present, being supportive, being loving, um, just being there.
Yes. I would say I share those same sentiments as you as far as those qualities. But I also wrote down, so some of this I wrote, usually we're freestyling, but I wanted to be very precise. Well, if I'm reading you guys, I apologize. But I just wrote down a couple qualities. And for me, I said compassionate, easy to talk to, somebody that is wise, affectionate, powerful, a leader who leads by example and practice what they preach, relatable, and definitely dependable. So those qualities
That's
are
good. Some good stuff.
right, right, right. So with that said, now that we both said our definitions of what we think a good father is, you guys, by the way, in the comments, some of these questions you guys can answer. You guys can say your opinions as well. Um, but Jalen, based on the definition that you gave, would you say your relationship with your father, did he live up to that definition of a good father to you?
My dad went above and beyond the definition that I gave. I'm gonna really try to make it through this segment without crying, y'all. Okay. I had an amazing father. Amazing. I was truly, truly blessed to have my dad up until I was 16. My dad died when I was 16. I had an amazing father. My dad was definitely dependable. He was definitely there. He was present. I One thing I can say, I never ever ever had to question how my dad felt about me.
Mm.
It was never a question. Me, my mom, my sister, my brother, like we were it for him. We were his pride and joy for sure. And anybody that talked to him for long enough, he was going to tell you. He was going to brag on us. He was going to talk about us. We were the best thing since sliced bread. Um, so I actually wanted to write down a couple big things about my dad just to kind of showcase the type of dad that he was.
Yeah.
Um, so the first experience that I want to write down, that I wrote down was Valentine's Day and birthdays, because my dad was really, really big on holidays. Um, so in our household, on your birthday, I don't care what time my dad got off work. I don't care what he did the day before. When you wake up in the morning, on our mirror, it's gonna be big, happy, whatever birthday with your name written in soap. This was just a tradition. He did it every year. He never missed it. You guaranteed to have that. And he was just really big on celebrating our birthdays. As far as Valentine's Day, when you wake up in the morning, you go downstairs, you are going to have a card. You're gonna have a bear or some flowers. You're gonna have some chocolate. And I think as a kid, I was just excited to get something. But
Yeah.
as an adult, I realized that my dad was really showing me how a woman is supposed to be treated and how a woman is supposed to be celebrated. And he
Yeah.
didn't just do that for my mom, he also did it for me and my sister. So I didn't know what not getting a gift on Valentine's Day felt like, because as long as I can remember, I always got them.
Right.
As far as always being present, me and my sister cheered pretty much our entire high school career, either football, basketball, or both. I don't remember my dad missing a game unless he was at work.
Wow.
He was there.
Wow.
And if we got pins made with our faces on them, he had one on. He was
Mm.
very, very present. And even now, my dad died when I was 16, so it'll be 11 years this year. Yeah, 11 years that he's been deceased. Even now, I see people that I grew up with, and they're like, "Oh my God, I loved your dad. Your dad was amazing. Like, I remember this happened or that happened, and he helped me. He came through." So not only was he a father figure to me, but he was a father figure to a lot of people that I grew up with that didn't have a father
Yeah.
or that didn't have that positive male figure in their life. So he was really big on that. He was just a good person. And there was no kid that came around him that didn't feel that love that we felt. So it wasn't just for me and my sister. He was able to show that love to any kid that was in his presence. I had friends whose parents felt safe with them coming to my house and staying for days because they knew that they were in good hands when it came to not just my dad, but my mom as well. But he was just a cool guy. Anybody that ever met him that was ever in his presence has nothing but good things to say. Um, so yeah, I had a really, really, really good dad. I did.
That
I was truly blessed.
your dad sounded like he was amazing. He sounded
He
really
was
amazing.
lit, and he was very relatable. Not gonna go into too much detail, but my dad was very honest with me and my sister about be, being black in America, and a lot of things he would say as a kid, and I'm like, oh my God, Dad, like you're crazy. Like, why are you saying that? But as an adult, and I'm actually experiencing a lot of things, like I always say, I wish I could call my dad and talk to him as an adult because there's so many things that he touched on when I was a kid that I didn't really understand because I hadn't experienced it personally yet. And
Mm.
now I'm like, oh, that's what you was talking about. Okay, I
Right.
wish I could call you and tell you, yeah, you were right. Like,
Right.
it's some crazy stuff going on in the world. So yeah, he was definitely present, relatable, loving. He was, yeah, like a poster dad.
Yes, that's so good to hear. I think that is so beautiful and so important, especially with, going back to stereotypes. We don't hear stories like that. So that is absolutely beautiful. Um, Unfortunately for me, the definition that we described, my biological father did not uphold those definitions. And again, before I get into it, I'm gonna give you guys a little more details because I can only speak my truth. But anything I say is not to bash anyone; it's just to tell the truth. Um, I grew up with my mom and dad married. So I grew up with my dad in the household. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. We all have the same mom and dad. My dad was in and out of the house at an early age, whether that was him dealing with legal issues and or possibly with another family. He was in and out of the house. Some of the times when he was there, I also grew up in a domestic violence household. I'm not going to get any more deeper than that out of respect to my mom, obviously, and just our privacy as a family. But those things that we went through when my mom and my dad finally separated, we then kind of went through the typical waiting for dad to come. We're packed and ready for the weekend, and dad never shows up. So we just went through things like that. My dad gave a lot of broken promises, unfortunately. But in the same breath that I say all that, which is just my truth, it wasn't always bad. It wasn't always terrible. When those moments are good, my dad was super funny. Um, he was funny. He was playful, and also I remember he used to try to protect us from getting whoopings. I remember at an early age from my mama. I remember just a funny little story that I never forgot. I remember my dad had to whoop me one time with a belt. He barely hit me, and I still was crying because he had never hit me before. And he gave me the belt and told me I could hit him back. Those are just little memories I remember. So I just want to make it clear it wasn't always bad. And just through adulthood, trying to mend that relationship with my dad as an adult, has had its up and down moments.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that's super funny that you brought up the story about him whooping you. I have a similar one. I don't even remember why I got in trouble, but my dad, quote unquote, was whooping me, and I was hollering like somebody was killing me. Mind you, he hadn't even hit me yet, and he just threw the belt. Like, girl, get like just go ahead on somewhere. I'm not even about to. I can't even take it. Um. So yeah, super funny. So how has your relationship with your father shaped you as an adult?
Um, Sometimes I would like to think it did not shape me as an adult, and I think that when I was younger, I probably used to say that like, "Oh, I don't have daddy issues," right? Like I was good, My mom, I got my mom and X, Y, Z. But to be honest with you, it did affect me as an adult and how I dated. Um, Sometimes, like now, I have like when it comes to dating, I have like a zero tolerance for like BS, and to a fault because we're dealing with imperfect people. So sometimes you got to show a little grace or whatever and give people an opportunity. But I think the fear that I always had was if I accept this, I'm going to accept this in a long time. So it was me trying to like protect myself of not being in a situation, being with someone like my dad. Honestly, that's about as blunt as I can say it. But um, it definitely affected me in that sense. And I'm so sorry. We moved on to the next question, and I forgot to say this is so important. I'm so sorry I skipped it. When I was 13, my mom met my stepdad. Let me say this as well. So let me go back to the question before. My mom met my stepdad when I was 13. And he was absolutely amazing. He loved my mama good, bad, and ugly, and he loved us like we were his own kids. So let me say that. So from 13 and up, I got to see those positive examples. I got to see what unconditional love was between my mom and my stepdad. So I definitely don't want to leave him out of that because he's a big part of it, and a big part of that turning around for us. And we put him through hell. Coming into a family with 3 kids who went through some things in the previous one, and through it all, he stood on all 10. So shout out to Rod. I love you very much. Shout out to my dad too. I love you as well if you're watching this. But yeah, I just want to throw that out there. That did not mean to skip over that.
No, I love it. I love it. Um,
But what about you? Relationship with your dad shaped you as an adult, or as a relationship?
yes. Okay, so in two ways. So the first thing, I was my dad's last child. So
Mm-hmm.
I am the baby. So I was spoiled. Anything I wanted, I got. If I asked for it, it's mine. Um, and that's all cool and dandy when you're a kid and you're talking to your dad, but as an adult, life does not work like that. And I was definitely one of those spoiled kids that was like, "What's no? Like, no, what does that mean?"
Right.
Um, So as an adult, I had to realize that everybody's not my dad. Everybody doesn't have to tell me yes. I'm not
Right.
entitled to all the things that my heart desires that I think I am, at least not at someone else's expense. So definitely that. And also, I think because my dad was so so supportive. My dad always told me and my sister that we were beautiful, always told us that we were loved, always told us we were amazing. You could do anything you put your mind to. It really helped me when I got out into the real world, and everybody didn't think that of me because I didn't need outside validation. I had already got that in home. So it didn't matter how you felt about me. I was amazing. I am amazing. I am beautiful. I am loved. I can do anything that I put my mind to. So that aspect kind of helped with getting no's, not just getting a no in like personal life, but even in business or anything like employment or anything, I was okay with moving forward, because I had that validation growing up and I knew that I could do whatever I put my mind to. So definitely helped me on both sides.
Right. I see. Um, I know I mentioned my mom a little bit earlier. Um, but let me ask you this. How do you feel about the sayings or opinions about mothers playing both roles?
I'm not a fan. Um, so here's the thing. I I'm opinionated about the topic, but I also am biased because I didn't really have a single mom. I didn't grow up in a household with a single mom. Of course, my dad died when I was 16, so I was still in the household with my mom when he passed away. So I guess financially, she had to take on an additional burden because my father was gone and he was definitely the breadwinner in the family. But I feel like your mom, like she can't be your mom and dad. You can have a great mom, an amazing mom. I don't ever want to take that away from moms, especially not single moms. Because I don't know that struggle. I haven't lived that struggle. I pray as a mother I won't have to. But I just don't think that a mother can be a father. She can be a great mom. She can be everything that you need her to be. But I think maybe not in that moment, but at some point you're going to miss having a dad. And I just don't think that there's anything, even though our moms are amazing and they want to be everything for us and they don't want us to hurt in terms of, missing your dad or not having your dad or whatever the situation is, they can't replace who your dad is. Honestly, they shouldn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
You were given two parents, and so that's just my personal take. But you grew up in a single parent household. So what's your take on moms playing both roles?
So I just want to start off the record and say shout out to all the single mothers out there. Um, it's easier, yeah. Clap it up for all the single moms out there. I think it's a little easier. A father, doesn't have to carry the baby, doesn't have to push the baby. So sometimes, they don't have to get, quote unquote stuck. They have a choice to be there. As a mom, they don't get a choice, right? Which is why it's the stigma of single mothers. But so shout out to all the mothers that do it all. To be honest, so I commend you. I don't know if and how I can do it. Um, so I think mothers who do it all are absolutely amazing. Get all my praises. And with all that being said, um, a mother cannot replace a father. They can try, and I think the best thing a mother can do is just love on your babies enough to where that absence of a father don't feel as big or that gap doesn't feel as wide or doesn't feel as heavy. But I definitely think that, a mom can't be a dad. You're not a man. And that's why you have other people like the stepfathers, the uncles. You have all these other role models and male figures, whether that's a teacher, a lot of sports coaches. So shout out to all those father figures that step in, especially for the single mothers. But I definitely believe that a mother cannot replace a father. They could show love on you though amazingly and
Yes,
try to can.
absolutely. Um, I also just want to touch on this because we're talking about moms being dads. It is so, and I know I'm about to offend some people, but I'm going to say it. It is so cringeworthy for me when people like wish their mom a happy Father's Day.
Okay. I,
Cringeworthy.
okay.
Not because, like I said, and like you said, your mom. There are people out here who have amazing moms, and on Mother's Day, I'm with you 1,000%. Whatever you want to do, you want to praise your mom, you want to bash your dad. That's your truth. You get to live in your truth. I don't have nothing against it. Um, but I know a lot of amazing fathers. A lot of them. I had one. My uncles. I had a great stepdad. So I know a lot of amazing Black fathers,
Mhm.
and I just don't think it's fair that we take that away from them. Because on Mother's Day, I don't really see too much bashing. Don't really see any single fathers getting
Right.
the
Right.
praise. But on Father's Day, it is a show, especially on social media now. With social media being so big, it's a show. And I just think, um, like I said, I know a lot of amazing Black fathers. I know some amazing single Black fathers. And I just think that that day is just, we should celebrate the fathers that we do have in our community that are doing stuff, that are stepping up to the plate and taking care of their responsibilities.
I absolutely agree with you. Even with me growing up with a single mom, some years of my childhood, I don't wish my mom a happy Father's Day. Like I don't, so to all the people that do that, I feel like on Father's Day, give our black men especially. Y'all see my shirt? It says "Dear Black Men, I love you." But I let the fathers have their day. They're so important. I love seeing all the love on Father's Day. That is for them. I think we're getting better though, because it used to be way worse. Um,
Okay.
People start cracking down, saying stop doing that. Like so now, a couple of days before Father's Day, you see people saying, "Don't get on here to wishing your mom a happy
Please.
day." So
Please.
we're getting better because it used to be real bad. But yeah, absolutely not. Father's Day is for fathers, and if you didn't have a good father, just go ahead and sit down
That
without.
ain't, this one ain't for you. It ain't
Right,
for you. Everything ain't for everybody, okay?
right,
If you
right.
ain't have a good day, go ahead.
Right, and it's the same for if you didn't have, on Mother's Day, if your mother wasn't the best mother, it's the same thing. Because, like you said, there are a lot of single fathers. You don't see them on there saying, my kids need to wish me a happy Mother's Day. Like, no. So, yeah, I absolutely share that
Not
same.
happening.
Right, right.
Not happening. Um, so I have another question. So, in terms of your relationship with your dad, sorry we kind of got off topic, but I had to talk about Father's Day. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
about Father's Day. But how do you think your relationship with your dad or even with your stepdad affected how you date?
Mm. Um, I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, just saying like how I sometimes will cut people off too easy at like the first stage of like BS because I just didn't want to start accepting things and end up with somebody like my father. So that is kind of what I said earlier about that. But I'm getting better and learning. As I'm grown now, so I've gotten a little more wise in that area. Um, but other than that, um, I don't really think it affected me in a negative way because, like I said, my stepdad came when I was 13, so I got to see a good example. So I know how I deserve to be treated. I saw him love on my mom, for years. It's been 18 years now. So yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that love manifest and grow. Um, and definitely, I think again, I'm sorry, I don't want to keep bringing this up, but the only way I feel like it affected me too is that at the first sign, if someone gets a little too angry or too whatever, I don't play them games. Like I don't play no type of. If we can't communicate and talk about things like two adults, I'm not saying we can never get into arguments, but if we can't talk about it like two adults, I don't play them domestic violence games. So just in those two ways, it kind of affected me. But how about you? How did it affect you with dating, or even with your husband?
So, when I look back at people that I've dated prior to my husband. I don't feel like it affected me. I don't feel like I was looking for any type of similar characteristics or anything of that nature when I was dating. But when I look at my husband, I realized that I had to be doing something. My husband reminds me so much of my dad. It's scary sometimes. Um, Even in his mannerism, just the things that he enjoys doing, just little things sometimes. Me and my mom will be like, wow, that's your dad. Like, that's something my dad would have said, or that's something my dad would have done. So we joke about that a lot. Like, you definitely mirrored your dad. And even my sister, her husband, definitely got some James McLean, some Suge tendencies in him. Okay. So I think in the long run, we were definitely looking for someone or attracted to someone that reminded us of our dad.
Right.
In all of the good ways. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And speaking of that, the second question I asked on my Instagram was, did people think their relationship or lack of relationship with their father affected them as an adult? Um, and 86 people answered that. 71% of people said yes, it did affect them, and 29% said no. So the interesting thing about the 29% was some of the people who said no, it didn't affect them, were the people who said yes, they had a good relationship with their dad. And I thought that was very interesting because, like you just said, you didn't even realize it affected you, but then you ended up marrying someone like your dad because you had an amazing example, or it reminded you like of your dad.
Right.
I would just be very interested to those people who said no but had awesome relationships with their father. What would their answer be if they didn't, like without that relationship? So you know what I mean. So I do think it definitely affected you, whether good or bad, whether it was knowingly or unknowingly. I think it kind of impacted us all as adults.
And I think maybe um, a lot of people focus on the negative effects. So
Mm-hmm.
you're thinking, no, it didn't affect me, like I was good, because it didn't affect you negatively.
Yeah, yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of times people don't, and that's why I said I don't think when I was dating people that I was looking for that. But when I think about the positive effect of it, I definitely um, ended up and chose my partner that reminds me a lot of my dad. So I think a lot of people kind of harp on the negative effects, and so they're like, well, I was good, I was able to date, it wasn't an issue. So that may be why they don't think that it affected them. But if you really dig a little deep, I'm sure it's it's something that's definitely affecting how you're moving as an adult.
Absolutely. And lastly, with all of this being said, right? All this good stuff we learned, how we dated, how it affected us as an adult with our fathers. Um, how do you think your relationship with your dad has influenced you when you have kids in the future, father or your husband, obviously, because you're married, and when you and your husband have kids, has it affected how you want to parent your kids in any way?
Um, yeah, it has. So I had a really good dad, and my husband also has a really good dad. So shout out to my father-in-law. He is amazing. I love him to death.
Yeah.
Um, so we both grew up with really great dads, and Quay's dad is still alive and well. Actually, was just with him last weekend. So um, we had good examples, and I'm very excited to see Quay in the role as a father because I know that he is going to be amazing. Um, he's already very loving and supportive. He's great with children. He's
Yeah. Come
very
on.
present.
Please.
As you all know, we don't have kids right now, but I have a nephew who I absolutely adore. And me and Quay were actually together when my sister had my nephew. So he's been there the entire time. And my nephew calls me all the time and he's like, hey, TT. I'm like, hey, how are you? I'm all excited to talk to him. He's like, where's Quay Quay? Can I
Oh,
speak to Quay Quay? Can you put Quay Quay on the phone? So he is definitely Quay Quay's number one fan. And he's just so amazing with my nephew. Like, I thought I was good with kids, but when kids come around us, they're like, oh, hey, and they're straight to him. So
Right.
I'm just excited to actually see him in that role when we have children. I have very high hopes and expectations just because he is just an amazing man. So to be able to see that next level of him as a father, I think is going to be great, very great.
Yeah.
So what about you as far as expectations for your child's father?
This is a very deep question for me. I know I get asked. Shout out to all my little cousins because they all ask me why I don't have kids. I'm like, do y'all see a husband or a man? But this answer is why I don't have kids. I have such high expectations for the father that I want for my children. And there's like a couple things in my life that made me like stand 10 on that. Like, I'm not having kids unless it's this. So in college, I had a friend named Leah. So shout out to Leah if you're watching this. Um, Leah had an amazing dad, similar to some of the things that you're saying. I've heard stories about her father all the time. And I remember one day we were in college. So this was years ago. I've been out of college a minute now, and this stuck with me forever. And it changed me. So Leah was talking, and she was saying that her dad was amazing, saying that it's gonna take a strong man to make her want to change her last name. Her last name is Bunday, and she is so proud. She is like, I am a Bunday, and it's gonna take a strong man for me to want to change my name because my dad was amazing. And for you have to be a powerful man to make me want to take all or take on your last name. She was so proud to have her father's last name. And I remember being in college listening to that story, not relating at all. Like I have my father's last name, and it could change tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, just being honest. So I didn't have that experience. I didn't know what it was like to take pride in being named after your father, and those type of things is what I want my children to have. I want my little girl to know what daddy's little girl means. And I know it might sound sappy, it might sound deep, but I can't relate to that. Yes, I had an amazing stepdad, but he came when I was 13, and I thought I was grown. So, we went through some things. So I wasn't a daddy's little girl. You know what I mean?
Right.
I would never understand or relate to that feeling. I could hear it and admire it and think it's beautiful, but I don't know what that's like. And I promise if I have a daughter, she will. And of course, I can't predict the future. Of course, relationships don't, and all that other stuff. But I'm gonna try my damnness to make sure that my little girl know that. And my son, like, this is getting a little too deep, but I'm gonna tell y'all a little bit. In that same sentiment of Leah wanting, a certain man to change her last name, I kind of want, if my future don't mind, I want my son to be a junior, to be honest, because I think that is so powerful too. To feel like you got big footsteps to follow. I think that's so amazing as well. And I remember, you guys know I work in a child protective services. I met, I had a case, but I met a man. His first and last name. He had 4 sons. They all had the same name. It was the first, the second, the third. He was not playing. And but when he talked about it, it was so powerful. Like that name and what it meant to them, and to walk in that, it's just so much power and beauty that comes in that. And that is what I want for my future kids. And if it ain't that, I don't want it. So I know I'm 30, and some of my cousins be asking me when I'm having kids, but if it ain't that, unfortunately, I do not want it. And if it is that, y'all gonna see.
I just want to touch on the story about Leah.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true. Listen, I just want to apologize to the woman that works on Social Security that had to change my last name on my paperwork because, baby, I was in that lady office crying.
Oh.
Boo hoo crying. I like, and it was just so emotional for me to change my last name when I got married. I love my husband. I love my Ross family. I love being a Ross. It's amazing. But I was so attached to my last name.
Mm.
Not only just because it was my dad's last name, and then on top of that, my dad is deceased.
Right.
And then it's almost like you go through an identity crisis because I have
Mm.
been Jalen McClee all of my life.
Right.
I was 26 when I changed my last name. So I had been Jalen McClee all my life, had never been anybody else.
Right.
And so it was just really big for me, like, oh my God, like I'm not I'll always be Jalen McClee. But when I signed my name, I signed Ross now. And that was just a really big listen, it was a really big thing for me. I know the lady was like, okay, like if you ain't want to take the last name, you can
Right.
have, you know, yeah, but that was is definitely emotional to switch your name over. Well, for me it was very emotional. It took me, oh, we got married in August. I don't even think I switched my name until the end of the year. I
She's still
switched it on Facebook,
right, right,
but
right.
baby, I had everything else was still Jalen McClee. It was very emotional for me to part with my maiden name. Very.
Yes, yes. So
So
everything you just said, my future daughter needs to have that same energy. You know, like
it's
I have
powerful.
the same energy. And that's just that on that. Um, I do want us
But
to. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jalen.
oh no, I was reading. She said I have my maiden name and my husband's name is hyphenated. So not to put my husband on blast, but I did bring up the idea of hyphenating my last name, and he did not say no. But it was not a solid yes, y'all. It was it was not a solid yes. He was like, yeah, I mean,
If you want.
yeah, it was one of those like, I don't want you to, but I'm not gonna tell you, that you can't. Because just like I was attached to my last name, he loves his last name, and that was really big for him. Like, I'm making you my wife, you're going to be a Ross. Like, I want
Yeah,
you to be a Ross. He was
energy.
very, yeah, like you're definitely changing your last name. He didn't even entertain the idea of me not changing it. Hyphenating, he kind of was like, I see both sides. I understand why you want to hyphenate it, but he was like, you're definitely gonna be Jalen Ross, so you need to figure that out.
Figure it
And
out.
just out of respect for him and how he felt about his last name, I just went
Right.
ahead and dropped my maiden name. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really ever go away. I still have to write McLean on a lot of things, just you know, logistics. But yeah,
Yes.
the
We want
hyphenated wasn't gonna work.
some of the comments.
Aww.
I'm gonna go back to the top. Amar said, "I love that shirt. Thank you, friend. He made it. If a man is right, his world will be right. Amen, Justin." Let's read this one. My biological dad was there, but not there. My dad, Eli McCoy, he was the one that walked the floors during the illnesses, stayed up all night in my hospital bed, made sure that every need was met. He spent time with us and taught us how to be strong women, taught us what to look for, and he was a genuine man. We were princesses. He never missed a birthday, holiday, and just because our first day was with him. Absolutely,
Oh, I love that.
that's my auntie talking, and I absolutely agree. Who she's referring to is their stepdad, who was our father, and the one I know as grandpa. He was amazing. My earliest memories of him before he passed, like how you described your dad on like Valentine's Day and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Those were my experiences with my Papa Mac. So shout out to Papa Mac. He was straightforward, never okay. My dad was present but wasn't. I come from a two-parent household. While he was the provider, I always felt like he was absent and didn't represent or show how a man should love his wife, the mother of his kids. He's very smart, business mindset, but just wanted to feel that genuine love. It was more of a toxic household and emotional mental abuse. Don't get me wrong, he has his moments where it's like, dang, I really like or love my dad, but overall, he's an asshole. He has showed me what I wouldn't like a man or future husband. Well, then,
Living
um,
your truth.
yes, living your truth, and that's very true. There's a good and a bad. Take the good and the bad. Take what you can and grow from it. And I pray for your sake that you and your dad can work through that and get on a better page too.
Absolutely.
Hang on, as women, it is important to not speak ill of the father in front of the children. The child will grow up and see their self for what it is and what it wasn't. Let's talk about this for a second. Amen. One thing about it, my mother never allow us to disrespect my father. She used to always tell us to respect him. If he ever said he was coming, she was packing us up, getting us ready. There's a million stories I can get into that I'm not, but my mom always told us to love our dad no matter what. if he wasn't there or if we got mad. It took us becoming adults, and even as adults, she would be like a disrespectful child, days is short, and all this other stuff. I'm like, girl,
Come on, mom.
we grown.
And I can actually speak on that. So, you know, like they say, funerals and weddings bring out the best and the worst in people. And
Mm-hmm.
so, when my dad died, I learned a lot of things about my dad that I did not know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of truths were revealed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I can remember learning some stuff that really wouldn't affect me and my sister, but like things that happened before we were even born, when my parents first dated. And I was asking my mom, I'm like, why didn't we know that? Why didn't you know that happened? What, like, how do anybody else know we didn't know? And my mom was just like, you like that wasn't kid business. Like that wasn't, y'all didn't need to know that, or I didn't want you guys to know this or that. She was very big on positivity. That's all we need to know about our parents is positive. And I think a lot of times we forget that our parents are human outside of people outside of being our parents. Like to us, it's just mom and dad.
Right.
But they have identities outside of that that we don't really have to touch on because we're just kids. So you're just mom, you're just dad. But I definitely agree with that. Just when we become adults, we will know for ourselves and be able to make our own judgment calls about
Right.
what type of people our parents are.
Right. The only dad I've known is Benjamin, who adopted me, and he died when I was 12. Shout out to Benjamin. Shout out to all the dads in the world that step in when they don't have to be a dad.
Absolutely. Stepdads matter.
Yes, stepdads matter. I married a man that was similar as my stepdad, similar to Jalen.
I screamed at your mom saying, I am not the daddy. I couldn't do it because we was talking, but when we were talking about Mother's Day and Father's Day, she commented that.
I saw that too. She was like, I am not the daddy.
Period.
I kept my maiden name because it's the only memory I have of my parents. I definitely understand that.
Somebody said your mama got a good man.
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
my mama love her man, baby. Thank you for this episode, ladies. It was very informative information that needs to be heard and passed on. Thank you, Justin. I really appreciate that. I know we really appreciate that.
We are definitely trying.
If that's all the questions, we are going to wrap it up. If you have made it this far, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, if you are watching this and the live is over, please interact and comment. Some of the questions me and Jalen asked each other, you guys feel free to answer. Even after the live is over, we will come back and communicate and respond to some of the clients. I said clients. I am not at work. Some of the comments
Some
I
of
mean.
the clients.
My bad.
My mom, yeah, I was. I
Yes.
definitely was. I actually walk around. You can see my necklace. I walk around with my dad all day long.
That is so beautiful.
My my loving husband bought it for me. It's
Yes.
amazing.
Okay. Well, that is all for us. Jalen, do you have anything else?
No, listen, celebrate Black dads. We
Yes.
need dads,
Yes.
okay? Celebrate. If you know a good dad, even if it's not yours, if you know a good dad, you know a good Black man that is stepping up and doing what he's supposed to be doing, celebrate that man.
Yes.
Sometimes they need that. They need that extra encouragement. Like Jaleesa Shay say, we love you, okay? We
We
love
really do
Black
know.
men.
We're black men. We love you. Okay.
We gotta celebrate our Black men and our Black women too, but we talking about the Black men right now.
Yeah.
Celebrate the Black man, because there are a lot of Black fathers that are doing what they are supposed to do, and they
Amen.
deserve that recognition, definitely.
Amen. Absolutely. Let me say this shout to all the fathers out there. Future fathers, if you ain't got no kids, but you're going to be a father, you are so important. You are so important. Don't let nobody tell you different. You are valued, you are appreciated, and we love you.
We do.
All right, you guys have a wonderful evening, and we will see you all next week.
Next Sunday.